4.3 Around the World in 80 Days, Part 7. Passport having received his order, he had nothing to do but obey them. He looked at his imperturbable master, could scarcely bring his mind to leave him. His heart was full, and his conscience tortured by the remorse for the accused himself more bitterly than ever being the cause of irreparable disaster. If he had warned Mr. Fogg and he betrayed fixed project to him, his master would certainly not have given the detective passage to Liverpool. And then, Passport could hold no longer. My master, Mr. Fogg, he cried, why do you not curse me? It was my fault that. I blame no one, returned Philosopher with a perfect calmness. Go. The Passport left the room and went to find Auda, to whom he delivered his master's message. Madam, he added, I can do nothing myself around. I have no influence over my master, but you perhaps. Passport received the order from other person, but his duty is to obey that order. Many times he blamed to Philosopher, but there is no change on the face of Philosopher because he was a totally gentleman, so he was not taking any seriousness of the problem created by his friends or by his colleagues. So his heart was very heavy heart whenever he was living to Philosopher, but there was no change on the nature of Philosopher. He cried, that is, Mr. Passport cried out that, my master, why do not you curse me? It was my fault. Why do not curse me? That's a question asked by Passport to Philosopher. But Philosopher did not give any type of the response to that question. He blamed, so he returned to Auda for that purpose. But there was not any change on the mind of Philosopher. So Mary added, I can't do nothing myself. I had no influence over my master, but my perhaps. So both of them had given explanation. There was no influence, there was no change in the nature of our friend, nature of our master as Philosopher, because he was silent minded. या पॅरेग्राफ मध्ये आपल्या असं लक्षात येतं की पॅसपोर्ट जो आहे पॅसपोर्टचा मास्टर हा फिलॉसॉफर आहे आणि तो पूर्ण निश्चित प्राण्यानुसार त्याला ब्लेम करतोय, त्याला तो प्रामुख्यानं दोष देतोय, पण दोषाचा कोणताही परिणाम फिलॉसॉफरवरती होऊ शकत नाही. मग त्यावेळेला तो पॅसपोर्ट म्हणतो की चूक माझी आहे, चूक माझी असून सुद्धा तुम्ही मला दोषीची शिक्षा का नाही देत. त्यावेळेला फिलॉसॉफर सांगतो हे तत्व मला जमत नाही. मी या संदर्भामध्ये जी माहिती तो आवडाला देतो, पण आवडाचं सुद्धा ज्यावेळेला स्पष्टीकरण फिलॉसॉफर ऐकतो त्यावेळेला त्याच्यावरही स्वभाव त्या दोघांच्याही प्रभावाचा फिलॉसॉफरवरती कोणताही परिणाम होत नाही, कारण तो शेवटी जेंटलमॅनचा रोल या धड्यामध्ये निभावतोय असं स्पष्ट मत लेखकानं या ठिकाणी व्यक्त केलेलं आहे. What influence could I have? Replied Ada. Mr. Fogg is influenced by no one. Has he ever understood that my gratitude to him, overflowing, has he ever read my heart? My friend, he must not be left alone in an instant. You say he is going to speak with me this evening. Yes, madam. Probably to arrange for your protection and comfort in England. We shall see, replied Ada, becoming suddenly pensive. Throughout this day, Sunday, the house in Savile Row was as if uninhabited, and Philosopher, for the first time since I had lived in that house, now did not set out his club when the Westminster clock struck 11:30. In the same paragraph, one more information is given that there is no influence on the nature of Philosopher. Whenever Auda's tried a level best to change the mind of Philosopher, but there is no change in the nature of Philosopher. So he told to Passport that in the evening I invited Philosopher for the party. definitely he will become there. Whenever he came there, there was no change in his nature, and he had decided not to set out for the Reformation Club because that was the time of 11:30. That was the time given in this paragraph. या पॅराग्राफमधून आपल्या लक्षात येतं की बावडा किंवा पॅसपोर्ट यांनी खूप प्रयत्न केले, प्रयत्नांची पराकाष्ठा करून सुद्धा स्वभावामध्ये बदल नाही. आणि तो परत सांगतोय की त्याचं जे हार्ट आहे ते कसं सायलेंट आहे, कोणत्या प्रकारचं सिरियसनेस ते घेत नाही. आणि मग आवडा सांगते मी रात्री त्याला पार्टीला बोलवलेलं आहे, भोजनासाठी बोलवतो, जरुरी त्याला अडचण आहे, तो वार रविवार आहे. पण एक मात्र त्यानं आपल्या यामध्ये नमूद केलेलं आहे फिलॉसॉफरनं की आपण या रिफॉर्मेशन क्लबला भेट देणार नाही. Why should we present himself at the reform? His friend no longer expected him there, as Philosopher had not appeared in the saloon on the evening before Saturday 21st December at 9:15. He had lost his wager. It was not necessary that he should go to the banker for the 20,000 pounds for his antagonist. Already had a check in their hand, and they had only to fill it out and send it to the bearings amount transferred to their credit. Mr. Philosopher, why Philosopher had not visited to the Reformation Club? He did not visit to the Reformation Club because he was accused as a bank robber. So the other friends were thinking that definitely he had not dared to visit the Reformation Club. But the reality was totally false one. But the day was Saturday 21st December, 9:15. There was a check in his hand and decided to repayment or the refill that check in the bank account. That was the final decision taken by him. But actually, that decision is not related to the given point. There was a controversy in check and the nature of philosopher. Actually, he was accused, but he was not real criminal. But there was a blame on his name, so he decided to repent or reback the payment. Philosopher बऱ्याच वेळेला हा रिफॉर्मेशन क्लब मध्ये गेलेलाच नव्हता. मग त्याच्या मित्रांना वाटलं की तो फिलॉसॉफर आता क्लबमध्ये येऊ शकत नाही कारण त्याच्यावरती गुन्हा सादर झालेला आहे. पण तसं पाहिलं तर गुन्हा सादर वगैरे झालेला नव्हता, कारण सिद्धताच मिळालेली नव्हती, व्यक्ती दुसरीच होती. तरी पण वास्तवतेचं चित्रण या धड्यामध्ये लेखन केलंय की फिलॉसॉफर हा खरोखर जेंटलमॅन आहे, खरोखर सुस्वभावी माणूस आहे, आणि म्हणून तो रिपेमेंट करायचं ठरवतोय चेक देऊन, अशा प्रकारे इथं वर्णन केलेलं आहे. Mr. Fogg therefore had no reason for going out, and so he remained at the home. He shut himself up in the room and busied himself putting his affair order. Passport continuously ascended and descended the stairs. There, the hours were long for him. He listened at the master's door and looked through the keyhole as he had perfect right to do so. And he feared something terrible might happen at any moment. Sometime he thought a fix, but no longer in anger. Fix, like all the world, had been mistaken philosopher. He had only done his duty in tracking, arresting him while he passport. Through this haunted him, he never ceased of cursing miserable folly. Finding himself too wretched to remain alone, he knocked at Auda's door, went into the room and seated himself without speaking in corner and looked ruefully at the woman. Auda was still pensive. Philosopher tried to control the pensive mood. So he had closed the door and remained silent inside the room. And that was the picture observed by Auda and Fix. There was no change, but they were very doubtful that there might be something wrong with that person. He might be done wrong with himself. And that was the fear in the mind of both persons, Passport and Auda. But that type of the decision was not taken by Philosopher. So one day he had visited to the house of Auda. He seated there without talking anything to that lady. That explanation telling us there was a deep sorrow deep sorrow gathered in the mind of Philosopher. तर फिलॉसॉफर स्वतःला खोलीमध्ये बंद करून घेतोय, खोलीचं दार बंद करून घेतोय, कोणाशी संपर्क ठेवत नाही. याच्यावरून आपल्या असं लक्षात येतं की त्याच्या मनाला खरोखर वेदना होत आहेत, कारण बदनामी तो सहन करू शकत नाही. आणि म्हणून असं जरी असं इतर मित्र वगैरे मित्र जे आहे ते पाहतात, त्या कोंदणातून पाहतात, छिद्रातून पाहतात तो शांत अवस्थेमध्ये. पण त्यानंतरच्या काही कालावधीमध्ये फिलॉसॉफर आवडाच्या घराला भेट देतोय आणि भेट दिल्यानंतर मात्र याशी काहीच बोलत नाही. यावरून आपल्याला काय समजायचं असं वाचकांच्या मनामध्ये प्रश्न तयार होतो. About 7:30 in the evening, Fogg went to Auda. Philosopher took a chair and sat down near the fireplace opposite Auda. No emotion visible on his face. Fogg returned as exactly Fogg who had gone away. There was the same calm, same impassibility. He sat several minutes without speaking, bending his eyes on the Auda. Madam, said he, will you pardon me for bringing you to England? I, Mr. Fogg, replied Auda, checking the pulsations of her heart. Please let me finish, returned Mr. Fogg. When I decided to bring you far away from the country which was so unsafe for you, I was rich and counted on putting a portion of my fortune at your disposal. Then your existence would have been free and happy. But now I am ruined. I know it, Mr. Fogg, replied Auda. Ask you in my turn, will you forgive me for having followed you? Who knows, for having perhaps delayed you and thus contributed to your ruin. Madam, you could not remain in India, and your safety could only be assured by bringing you to such a distance that your persecutor could not take you. So, Mr. Fogg resumed Auda, not content with resuming me from the terrible death you thought yourself born to secure you my comfort in foreign land. Mr. Philosopher was sitting in front of the fireplace. There was Auda. Both of them were watching towards each other. There was a conversation between top there, but that conversation was conversation of eyes to eyes conversation without uttering a single word. Then he asked, Auda, definitely I had done only one mistake, that I had brought you to England from your India. That's my fault. Are you angry with me? Are you nervous with me? But Auda did not give any type of the reply to that person. She told to him that definitely you had brought me to England, and that's a safety place for me. So I do not give any type of the answers to your question. त्याच वेळा फिलॉसॉफर हा जे फायर प्लेस आहे, जाळ केलेलं आहे, त्या जाळासमोर बसले दोघं, पण एकमेकाशी बोलत नाही. पण फिलॉसॉफरला वाटतं काहीतरी बोलावं, आणि म्हणून तो ऑडाला बोलतोय, मी तुला असं नाही का वाटत, मी तुला इंडियातून आणलेली आहे, आणि इंडियातून आणलेली ती इंग्लंडमध्ये डायरेक्ट पोहोचली, तुला दुःख वगैरे होतंय का, तुला असुरक्षित वाटतं का, असे प्रश्न तो विचारतो. परंतु ती म्हणते, नाही, मला फ्रेंड काय वाटत नाही, कारण मला माझे शत्रूपासून तू वाचवलेस, त्यामुळे निश्चितच मला काय वाटत नाही, अशी सरळ सरळ प्रतिक्रिया आवडा ही फिलॉसॉफरला देत राहते. नेक्स्ट, ही हॅज अ लॉस्ट जेंटलमॅन. The fact is that philosopher project was to obscurely foolish, whatever punctually. He could not prevent the delay. There was certain to occur and delay. Only two there, three would be fatal to his hour. Observe John Sullen that we have received the intelligence from him, though there are telegraphic lines all along the route. He had lost a gentleman, Andrew Stott. He has 100 times lost. He knows besides the China, the only steamer could have taken from New York to get there in time arrived yesterday. I have seen the list of the passengers. The name of Philosopher is not among them. Even we admit that the fortune has favored him, he can scarcely have reached America. I think he will be at least 20 days behind hand. And Lord Albemarle will be lose the cool 5,000. And was clear replied, got here, Ralph, and he had nothing to do but prevent Mr. Fogg's check at bearing to tomorrow. His friends were very frightened. Philosopher's friends were very frightened because they were doubtful. That is, Mr. John Suller was very doubtful that all the papers were captured and sent to China. Whenever they read the total list of the criminals, in that list there was not name of philosopher was available there. They were very happy, they were very pleased. Perhaps he might have gone to America for his protection. आता यामधून काय दिसतं की मित्रांनी जो ज्या सोलन स्टुअर्ट जो आहे यांनी सगळी यादी चेक केली, जी क्रिमिनलची यादी ती चेक केल्यानंतर लक्षात आलं की या यादीमध्ये फिलॉसॉफरचं नाव कुठं नाही. कदाचित क्रिमिनल चीनला पाठवलेले असतील असं वाटलं, परंतु तसं काही यादीत नाव नसल्यामुळे त्याला बरं वाटलं. पण खरा जो त्या ठिकाणी घडलेला जो पिक्चर आहे तो म्हणजे तो कदाचित अमेरिकेला गेला असेल, स्वतःच्या सेफ्टी कंडिशनसाठी गेला असेल, असं त्यांच्या मनामध्ये वेगवेगळे भाव येऊन जातात. यावरून आपल्या लक्षात येईल की फिलॉसॉफरची स्टोरी जगाला फेरफटका मारण्याची कशी आहे. अशा प्रकारे अराउंड द वर्ल्ड इन 80 डेज पार्ट 7 येथे संपतो. थँक्यू.